Hello, and welcome to the Journal Star Sportswriter podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam Duvall, joined by large school beat writer.
I graduated.
You graduated, Dave Reynolds, small school beat writer, Stan Morris.
Nice.
Welcome. We'll talk about week 4, recap week 3. We're on Facebook Live, so if you have any questions and or comments, feel free to dish those to us, and we'll try and answer your questions as best as possible. Let's start by recapping week 3. Dave, you were out in Canton, the battle of the Middle Illini Unbeatens.
Morton prevailed 33-14, although I got to give Canton some props here. The first half, they really dominated the line of scrimmage. They got a big team, and Morton had no success trying to run the ball against them. A lot of success throwing the ball. Riley Richards, 2 touchdown passes that first half, and he's impressive. 6'4", lanky. He's got a nice arm, good delivery, and he was well protected. But that basically was the ball game. Morton took a 19-8 lead into half, and Callie Stein from Canton is all he's cracked up to be. That kid is a hard runner. He's a bruiser and finds the holes. So, it was an enjoyable night.
Stan, you had 2. You were out in West Central Illinois, over in Farmington and Elmwood.
Yeah, started a night in Elmwood for their blackout night, blackout for Easter Seals night. I was only there for about 6 or 7 minutes of that game, but saw 4 touchdowns in that time, with Elmwood and Peoria Heights kind of lighting up the scoreboard there. They kept doing that all night long, going back and forth before Elmwood was able to prevail 50-48 in that game. Heights showed a pretty impressive passing attack that they have. And so then I went to Farmington, and Farmington was without one of their key guys, and Blake Springer was kind of sitting out, just kind of precautionary measures. But they 40-6 over Rushville Industry. They really looked good. Quentin Foltz came in to kind of take Blake's spot and this kind of next man up thing, and he ran for about 120 yards, and Josh McMillan was over about, I think it was 260 yards passing on the night. So they've got the Heights coming up this weekend, so it ought to be some more points being scored.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. I actually was at 2 games. I started my night in Washington. Washington beat Limestone 34-7. A great turnout, great crowd over in Washington for the first responders and military personnel night. Had a real nice pregame where they recognized all of the military personnel and the first responders, and then really great rendition of the Star Spangled Banner by the Washington Choir. And those military personnel and first responders were on the home side of the track, and both teams, Limestone and Washington, were in the end zone. And as they wrapped up the Star Spangled Banner, they went and shook hands and fist bumps and offered words of congratulations and thank you. So that was really nice to see. And then I ended my night over in Metamora. Metamora beat East Peoria 56-23. Jake Welsh, they're kind of looking for a running back, kind of looking for a quarterback. I think they found kind of a committee running back. Jake Welsh, he stood out. He had 6 carries, 3 touchdowns, 63 yards. And then sophomore Solomon Schwartz, he had a nice night as well. So it'll be interesting to see Metamora this week. They're at Limestone, but to see who gets those carries and
they lost snaps. A couple of linemen too going into that game. So kudos to the Redbirds for pulling it together with having so many key starters out.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the other large school games in the Big 12, we had Peoria High 54, Quincy Notre Dame 15, Bloomington 28, Manual 8, Notre Dame 63, Champaign Central 47. Dunlap beating Pekin 31-20 was the other Middle Illini game. On the small school ranks, IVC beat Pontiac 27-8. Leroy over DMAC 7-6. Princeville 42. Biggsville West Central 19. Fieldcrest 42. Tremont 7. Saturday, Richwoods beat Champaign Centennial 41-17, and Eureka took down Chicago Quest 56-14. Dave, was there another one game on Friday that kind of stood out to you?
Well, I just had mentioned the Metamora kids and what they were able to accomplish with, on very short notice, putting together the backups playing so well. I guess Dunlap and Pekin. I think Pekin led in that game 20-19, I believe, with 6 minutes left and a couple of fumbles, and Dunlap capitalized and took control the last few minutes of the game. So that was a pretty exciting finish as well.
Stan, is there another game that kind of stood out for you in week 3 that maybe was surprising or a big win for a program?
Well, I'll tell you what, Fieldcrest is the real deal. Looks like 42. What was it? 42-7 over Tremont, and they just pretty much shut down Tremont's running game. Tremont wasn't able to get anything going there, and now Fieldcrest has a big challenge this weekend. They play GCMS, so we'll see about that. But then again, Princeville also was over 500 yards in offense. They really got their offense going and looked really good to stay unbeaten.
Right. So we're actually gonna change up our format now. We're actually gonna go to fantasy now instead of the end of the show like we have in the past. So we'll go over our fantasy players. Stan, I'm going to pick on Dave a little bit.
Of course.
Dave last week, he had 29.8 points. Gabe Hernandez, he had 264 yards passing with 5 touchdowns and 16 yards rushing for 29.8 points. That was the only guy he had. Blake Springer was out. Cam Woolard was out. So, Dave?
My scouting report was not good last week.
So you'll have to utilize those guys come week 10 for the playoffs. Stan, on the other hand, he also had Gabe Hernandez, gave him 29.8 points. He had Callie Stein from Canton, like Dave said, big bruiser. He had 134 rushing with a touchdown. That gave him 19.4 points. He had Jared Drew, wide receiver from Heights Quest. He had a touchdown, so that gave him 6. I actually had one of the best weeks, I'm going to pat myself on the back, of my career. I had 95 points.
Wow.
Alex Merlot, he had 238 passing with 3 touchdowns, 57 rushing for 1 touchdown. He had 32.6 points. I had Stein as well. He had 19.4. Marcus Gully. Thanks, Marcus. Big shout out to you, man. That was a great week for me. Marcus Gully from Peoria Heights, he had 190 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. He gave me 43 points. So let's go ahead and pick our guys for week 4. Stan, let's start with you.
All right.
Let's go with your quarterback.
I'm going small school. I'm going to stay small school this week and going with Josh McMillan.
Josh McMillan?
Farmington.
All right.
He's been able to, put the ball in the air pretty well through the first 3 weeks, and they playing Heights this weekend, and we'll see if he can keep that going for me.
Okay. Dave, how about you? You need a bounce back week for sure.
I do. Quarterback, I'm going to go with Riley Richards. I liked what I saw last week. I think he's due for another. He just seems to get better every week for Morton, and I think he's due for another big game.
Okay. Dave, Gabe Hernandez is going to be my quarterback this week. Coming off a huge game last week against QND, I think he'll probably duplicate that against Manual. Dave, let's stay with you. Who's your running back?
I'll go with Callie Stein.
Okay.
I think he just keeps getting better. I mean, just keep in mind he's just a junior, so he's going to be good for a while with that team.
That's huge. Stan, who's your running back?
I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here with going with Logan Dameron, just because Elmwood is kind of a by committee these days. But he went up for over 100 yards last week, couple touchdowns, and we'll go with Logan.
Okay. I'm also going with the committee. Jake Welsh out at Metamora. Like I said, he had 6 carries for 63 yards and 3 touchdowns. Maybe he'll get a few more touches this week against Limestone. We'll have to see. Stan, let's go back to you. Who's going to be your wide receiver this week?
I'm sticking with the small schools. I'm going with Josh McMillan's partner, Dalton Powell. We'll go with this week. Speedy receiver, caught a 50-something yard touchdown this past weekend, and we'll see both of them. Hopefully, they both have a good night for me. Right?
Going to stack.
Going to stack.
That's what they call it.
Yep.
Stack. Wide receiver, Dave. How about you?
I've got Riley McQuarrie of Washington. He made the miracle reception in the last, with no time left on the clock. Not last week, but the week before. He's been an integral part of their receiving corps for a couple of years now, and I think he's due for a big one.
Okay. Well, I'm going shocking, 3rd straight week with an IVC guy, Alex Fulton, out at wide receiver. Not sure if Cam Wooler will be back, so he'll be Alex will probably be the focal point of the offense, the passing offense there. So overall stands, I am in the lead with 210 points, 10.63. Stan is next. He has 191.28. And Dave, you have 95.8 points. Week 4 is your week, Dave.
It better be.
All right, let's go. One thing from week 3, a stat, quote, note that stood out to you. Stan, how about you?
All right, I'm going to go with, it's kind of a combined thing, but 14 as a number. That's the number of passing touchdowns for Peyton Wilson for Peoria Heights through 3 weeks. And you got five of those this past weekend too, going up against Elmwood Brimfield. So yeah, he's putting up some pretty nice numbers, 925 yards passing through 3 weeks. So
okay, Dave, how about you? One thing for you?
I'm going to go the number 254. That's how many yards Chris Dillon rushed for of Notre Dame last week, and in their victory at Champaign Central. To go with those 254 yards, he had 5 touchdowns.
Jeez.
And to add further to that, he's been converted. He was a tight end last year. He's now a tailback for the Irish. And talked with him the other day. Nice kid, 6'3" or 4, not your typical tailback size, but he's getting looks from college. He told me he's got an offer from Augustana, Northern Illinois, interested. So,
wow.
Yeah, he's one to watch.
I almost picked him on my fantasy week for running back this week too.
Yeah, I might keep him next week.
Yeah,
not a bad idea. My one thing is a quote from Morton wide receiver Bobby Hines on his quarterback Riley Richards, who threw him 2 touchdown passes in that win over Canton. Riley is a great quarterback, the best quarterback a receiver could ask for. We've been playing together since JFL.
That's a great quote. Who got that from? I wonder.
That's credit to Dave Reynolds there. That was a great quote there. So that's one thing. Let's move on to week 4. What are we looking ahead to for week 4? Dave, let's start with you over in the large school. Is there a unique, what do they call it, the Shamrock Series? Or
Yeah. It's the game at Dozer Park,
okay,
where the Peoria Chiefs play, and Bradley baseball. Notre Dame hosts this game every year. This is the 6th year. The Irish are 5-0 in the previous meetings at the ballpark, and it's just sort of a unique setting. It sort of harkens back to the old NFL, Major League Baseball days in the stadiums where they played both football and baseball, because you've got grass, then you go to the dirt. And I asked Chris Dillon the other day, so what's that like playing there? He said, I love it, except when you get tackled in the dirt, it hurts. So it should be an interesting game. They always have a great crowd for that game, and it's they're playing Richwoods. I should mention that. The second time they played the Knights, and so it should be fun.
Our David Minion, he'll be out there. He'll also be over at the stadium for Peoria High Manual. Dave, we'll come back to you to give you to get an outlook on the Middle Illini. Stan, how about you? Where are you headed this week, and what are you looking forward to most of your game?
Yeah, I'm going to Eureka, going to see DMAC and Eureka play, HOI showdown there, kind of a rivalry game. It's a close one last year. Last year was at DMAC last year, went right down to the wire. Eureka was able to score a touchdown in the last 2 minutes to kind of pull that one out, and got a Cade Gold with the extra point kick, made it 19-18. So that was a great game last week. Both coaches, I'm sure, are looking forward to it being, a similar type of a close game. And that DMAC really has to kind of bounce back. They really weren't able to get anything going offensively against Leroy. I think they had like 50-some yards total offense against Leroy. It was a 7-6 loss. So they're coming off of that, so they'll kind of want to get things going. Eureka's hoping to kind of shore up some things as far as penalties and kind of smoothing out the offense and the rushing game and that kind of thing. So should be a good one there.
Dave, the Middle Illini, what do you...
Probably the top game this week is Washington at Dunlap. It's interesting. Washington has pretty much dominated this series the last dozen years. They've won 10 of them, but Dunlap has, if you look at from their standpoint, they've won 2 of the last 3. So they had, 2 victories the year they went to the state championship game. They beat Washington twice at Washington that year, and then the Panthers returned the favor last year. Again at Babcock Field, and this one's at Dunlap for the first time in a while. So that one I think will be a close game.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Stan, you have another small school game or two that you kind of circling?
Well, we just touched on Farmington at Peoria Heights. Toby Ballas talks about Heights being kind of a tough place to go in and play. It's kind of a different venue, and there's nobody on that side. There's no stands on their side, the visiting side, at all. Peoria Heights has kind of have been a tough luck. They put up some points, but haven't been able to come out with a win. So they've got the offense that can give Farmington a challenge. So it'll be a challenge for Farmington to kind of hold them down as well. So that should be interesting. And Elmwood is going to Havana. Elmwood may get their quarterback, Noah Hollis, back, the coach's son. He's been injured since the first of the season, so they're looking to hopefully getting him back this week. Don't know that for sure yet. But so there's that game on tap. IVC is home with St. Thomas More. That was a game that was 42-41, kind of a track meet last year. And again, St. Thomas More has some athletes, but IVC's really on a roll, so they've been going great. So those are some of the games this weekend on the small side.
All right, so we'll go to picks. Last week, Stan went 3-0. He correctly picked Morton and Bloomington to beat Manual, as well as the small school game Elmwood over Peoria Heights. Dave went 2-1. I went 2-1. Overall, Dave and Stan are both tied at 8-1. I'm 7-2. So let's pick. So Richwoods versus Notre Dame at Dozer Park. Notre Dame won last year 32-7. They scored 42 points on Manual last year at Dozer Park, and as Dave stated, they are 5-0 in this series. So, Dave, let's start with you. What is your pick?
I'm going to go with the Irish, 42-21. They have won 6 in a row against the Knights.
Wow.
Dating back to 2012. So I think that streak will continue. They played each other 2 years ago in this game at Dozier. Notre Dame won 61-24. I think it'll be a little bit closer than that, but I would think the Irish will prevail.
Stan, Rich Woods, Notre Dame, your pick.
I will go with Notre Dame as well. Like I said, they have a good history there, and been playing pretty well all season, really.
Had some good opposition.
Right. They've had some tough teams to go against. So I'm going to say maybe 45-20. We'll go there.
Okay. I will also go with Notre Dame. Hard to argue with 5-0 in this series. They're, even though a lot of the kids have graduated, it's hard to argue getting used to playing on that field with the dirt and the grass combo. I'll make it close. I'll say 28-24. Okay. Second game, we have Farmington at Peoria Heights. Last season, the Farmers won 40-14. This year, they're allowing 15 points a game. And as Stan said, the Heights is scoring some points. They're averaging 38 points a game this year. Mm-hmm. Stan, we'll start over with you. What is your pick on this small school game?
Hard to go against the Farmers. Their history, what they've been able to do, and they continuing to get better with a young team, and so they're just and they will likely get Blake Springer back this weekend. So I'll go with the Farmers, but there may be some points put up. I'll say that it's going to be 49-28. I'll say Farmers.
Okay. Dave, how about you?
I got Farmington 40-22.
40-22. I will also take Farmington, and I am going to go lots of points in this game. Lots of points. I'm going to go 44-38.
You were about right on with the pick last week.
44-42, and it ended up being 50-48. Yeah, there was a lot of points in that game.
Yeah.
All right, our bonus game of the week, Pekin at Morton. Pekin's 0-3. Dragons have led in all three of their games this year. They've led against Sterling. They've led against, they didn't play Sycamore. But they led last week against Dunlap. Morton won last season 54-35. I think Dave is...
I'm going to check that game for us here.
That week one game was Rochelle.
Yeah, Rochelle.
Yep. So, they've led against Rochelle in week one, Sterling week two, Dunlap week three. Dave, is this the week that the Pekin holds that lead?
After seeing Morton in person, I don't think so. I think the Potters are going to control this game from the opening kickoff. I've got Morton 44-19 here. The Potters are on all cylinders right now.
Okay. Stan, how about you?
I'm going to go with Morton as well. It's kind of hard. I mean, Pekin has been, like you said, they've been leading in these games. They're probably better than an 0-3 team, and to think that might be 0-4 after this week, that's kind of hard to think and to pick against. But Morton has seemingly kind of gotten things going, so I'll go with that. I'll go with Morton winning, and I'll go 30-21.
30-21 Morton. I will also go Potters. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, 28-21. Okay, so that recaps week 3, looks ahead to week 4. Stan, you will be out in Eureka.
Yes.
Our David Minion, he will probably start his night over at the stadium for Central, Peoria High, and Manual, and his night over at Dozer Park. I'll start my night in East Peoria. East Peoria hosts Canton. I'll finish my night out in Dunlap. Washington's at Dunlap. Don't forget to check out Thursday Night Chalk Talk last week with Washington's Daryl Crouch. A great interview with David Minion. Stan, you want to preview your Chalk Talk tomorrow night?
This Thursday night is going to be with Todd Hollis from Elmwood Brimfield.
I keep thinking today's Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. Yeah. So Thursday night,
yeah.
So Todd Hollis with Stan on Thursday. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter. We're at PJ Star Sports. Join the conversation. #PGS Preps. For Dave Reynolds, Stan Morris, I'm Adam Duvall. Bye for now.